Is marriage necessary? Furthermore, do you believe that marriage should be entered with the idea that it's forever? Why or why not?
This is the question we posed to our community, and it was definitely a hot topic with a whole bunch of different insightful and some controversial responses.
Marriage made a lot of sense once upon a time. But in 2019, when traditional gender roles have been redefined and continue to shift, where does the institution of marriage fit in with our ever-changing society?
Wow, so dramatic. In this episode, we share some interesting historical facts about marriage as a social contract, as well as some of the responses we received from our community survey.
We also share our own individual perspective on this topic.
Ready for an entertaining and eye and heart-opening discussion?
Keep listening. Welcome to Founders Connect podcast. We help lifestyle entrepreneurs to grow their business online and create a happier marriage.
Did you know that approximately 45% of marriages end up in divorce and 65% of all startups fail due to founder conflicts? Well, we're here to change that.
Each week we bring you an inspiring guest and practical tips to help you with business, relationships, and sustainable living. Now let the fun begin! Hi, I'm Cindy Pham.
And I'm Anthony Chansamuth.
And we're from Founders Connect. This week's fan shout-out goes to Jenny from Discovering Legacy, and they are from America. This is what they have to say. I haven't found my partner yet, but I want to learn from a couple who successfully combines business and relationship because that's what I want for my life as well. So Cindy and Anthony are the best example and an inspiration with great tips. And Jenny from Discovery Legacy has given us a 5-star. Thank you. So, what do you think? Is marriage necessary?
Also, do you believe that marriage should be entered with the idea that it's forever? Why or why not?
Today, we're going to try and answer this. We're going to share the results of our community survey and some of the very interesting responses.
But first, let's take a look at the history of marriage, as it might surprise you as it did us.
So here's the fascinating and bizarre history of marriage.
This is based on research from Marriage, A History from Obedience to Intimacy, or How Love Conquered Marriage by Stephanie Kuntz. We'll provide a link to an article on Psychology Today where we found these very interesting facts. So let's get into it. Cindy.
Let's start with ancient Greece. So then the idea of love was mostly acceptable between men.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, that's becoming emerging now, isn't it? So in marriage, inheritance is more important than feelings. For example, a woman whose father died without male heirs can be forced to marry her nearest male relative, even if she has to divorce her husband first.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, lucky I'm not in Greece.
And then we move to ancient Rome, where wife swapping was actually a career move. Statesman Marcus Porcius Cato divorced his wife and then married her off to his ally Hortensius in order to strengthen family bonds. The interesting thing is, after Hortensius dies, Cato remarries her. What do you think about that, Cindy?
Oh, no. Anyway, 12th century Europe. Marriage is good for loving someone else. Oh my. Upper class marriages are often arranged before the couple has met. Doesn't it remind you of India? Aristocrats believe that love is incompatible with marriage and can flourish only in adultery.
So it's really fascinating how the idea of love is reserved for, first of all, gay men or men, and then for adulterous people. It had nothing to do with marriage. Okay, now we go into the 18th century Europe, and married love starts to gain credibility. In 1840, in England, that's when the virgin lace was introduced, and Queen Victoria starts a trend by wearing a virginal white instead of the traditional jeweled wedding gown. So historically, women were thought of as a lustier sex, but now, for the first time, they start to be considered as chaste and pure. As a result, many men find it easier to have sex with prostitutes than with virtuous wives. How about that one, Cindy?
Oh my God. I think that's just an excuse to have a lot of it, isn't it? So, 1950s US marriage is mandatory. Marriage becomes almost universal and the nuclear family is
Triumphant.
Triumph.
So yeah, in the 1950s, okay, now we're talking about marriage as a mandatory requirement. It's weird to think of now in 2019, but we'll get to that in a moment. So in the 70s, the 1970s in the US, self-sufficient women, so this is a sort of post-war period or around that Second World War time, self-sufficient women and changing social rules mean marriage is no longer obligatory. So it's no longer a mandatory thing. All right, so only 20 years difference. And quarreling couples split up rather than make do, and the divorce rate starts to skyrocket.
Oh, yes. I see why. Anyway, today, bride pride. Ooh. Marriage is the ultimate expression of love, leading gays and lesbians to seek the right to marry, but also encouraging couples to cohabit until they're sure about their soulmate. Marriage rate falls, but the fantasy of the perfect wedding is found everywhere.
So as you can see, we've had a very interesting, weird, and sometimes bizarre history with this concept of marriage and this social contract that we talk about today. And so when we were thinking about this as a topic to discuss, it was very interesting to see what our community thought about that. And we actually did a survey and a poll and sent that out all over social media. We had over 100 responses on our Facebook post. And let's jump into some of those results and let's see what are the different opposing views of marriage now in 2019.
So we did a community survey and the question was, do you believe that marriage should be entered with the idea that it's forever? Why and why not? And this is our results. The results for that is 38% said yes, 22% said no, and the rest said it depends, which...
So 40% are basically on the fence, right? So that's very interesting, where I think if we went back a few generations, the answer would have been very clear, yes or no, right? But now let's look at some of the responses that we have chosen because they offer different insights into how people are thinking today.
Okay. So Cheryl says, yes, you should enter into marriage believing it will last forever. However, it's a belief. The reality is, so many things happen in life and you are utterly unhappy or unsafe in a marriage. I don't believe people should stay in one just because they signed on the dotted line.
And what do you think about Cheryl's response?
I understand why, but I have my own views.
All right, we'll get to that in a moment. Now, another response we had was from Tafra Street, who said that the concept of marriage was formalized when our life expectancy was 35. Forever had a very different context than it does today. As we look at the longevity of humans lengthening due to technological advances, we might need to reconsider how we do relationships, marriages, families. Some traditions are worth keeping, some are not.
So that's a definitely no, eh?
And it also speaks to, there's a real scientific fact here about our life expectancy has changed. Because of technology, we live longer, right? So forever, 100 years ago, literally meant, okay, you might be dead in the next 5 years. So forever was an okay idea. But now, we might be around together for the next 70 years or more. Okay, that's a different concept.
Yeah, indeed, isn't it? It seems so long compared with, 5 years?
And I'll share my thoughts on that in a moment as well. And here's a comment from Verity Robbins, who said, should is a word I grapple with in your question. If you wish to enter with the hope of forever, then go for it. I support the couples and their goals. If they wish to enter with the belief of love and life taking them where they need, then I also support that. Personally, I don't believe that monogamy is the answer for majority of our society, a social construct created to keep wealth within wealthy alliances. What I do believe in is honesty, respect, love, and consent. Relationship structures can be fluid and still magnificent.
Well, do you want to hear what James said? James said, at this stage of my life, I now believe that marriage should be entered into the idea that it should last for as long as both parties love and respect each other, and that every effort should be made by both parties to maintain that state of being. But where the love and or respect get to a point of irreversible decay, then we should acknowledge this and allow ourselves freedom to move on. That's very considerate of them, isn't it?
Yeah, so if there is a point where the relationship is breaking down and it can't be fixed, then why would we want to try and keep going, right? It's a point that James Michael is making there, and it's a valid point. I believe he's been through multiple relationships. I'm not 100% there, but that's someone obviously spoken from experience. And there was another person who said that they had been through 3 marriages. They're on their 3rd, and he went into it thinking every time that it's forever because that's the way that he's wired. At the same time, he then realized, that it's a great idea to go in with that, but sometimes it just doesn't work out.
You are listening to the Founders Connect podcast, helping lifestyle entrepreneurs to grow their business online and create a happier marriage. Now back to the show.
We're just going to add one more comment here from Rachel Pickworth, who shared, I think it's great to have that intention and stay committed if it's what you both want. But marriage shouldn't be a cage, and if you're not happy, life is too short. At the end of the day, be true to yourself and respectful and honest with your partner.
Yeah, that's pretty normal, isn't it, for any relationship, hey?
Well, it is. You would think that, but it comes back to that assumption at the beginning, right? Do you believe that it's for better and for worse till death do us part, right? So are there situations that occur where that does not apply?
So what's your thoughts on this, my darling?
All right, that's in this curious tone, if you didn't pick that up. So I tend to agree with James Michael and Verity and Cheryl with their comments, which is basically that you do go into the relationship, like when I proposed to you, with the understanding and the full intention of it being for our entire lives together, right? I also have had evidence or have seen enough to understand that some relationships are not meant to be. Like some people are just not a good fit and they marry for the wrong reasons, right? So I've seen that before. And then they try and have babies to try and stay on and hold on to the relationship, but it's not the right reason to be together. And they're just not admitting that it's not working. And they'll be better off if they moved on. So I've had friends and people in my circle who have been married, have been divorced, who are not married but maintain a beautiful, happy relationship together, right? Based on our current laws, you can have what's called a de facto marriage or de facto relationship. There's just different situations now. And it just comes down to you and your partner to discuss what works best for you as a couple. In our situation, Cindy, you and I, like I'm fully committed, 100%. When I went to get the ring and all of that, for me, it's like, yes, this is it. I'm not here to play. I'm not mucking around. And that's why it was a very big decision for me. And I've shared that with you many times. Now, there's 2 questions that we're asking here. One, all right, should it be forever? And the other question is it necessary? So my answer to, is it necessary? I would say no, it's not, right? Because there are legal structures now that allow couples to be together without having to go through the whole marriage process, right? There are also laws which are a bit outdated in terms of gay marriage. Some places, even in Australia, don't accept gay marriage yet, unless I'm mistaken. But I know that's changing, but that's another one. And then if we go back to, some of the history we shared, marriage was really set up by the church and also by certain institutions as a way to track wealth, how money was moving in the society, who was powerful and who wasn't, because that marriage was about, strong certain families that had power, keeping that power, right? And that's kind of moved on. And Jeffrey made a comment about that, a way to actually just continue the family tree by having babies, right? So that's my thought, Cindy. How about you? What do you think? So 1, is it necessary? And 2, should you go into a marriage with the belief that it's forever?
Well, I'll answer the last question first because that's easy. It's definitely a yes for me. It's a forever. I think because I've always been brought up in that kind of mindset, that's why marriage is a really big commitment to me. And I avoid it at all costs until I find the right person. So that's been a long process. I just don't willy-nilly, marry anyone. So yeah, I've met lots and lots and lots of people, and they're all very nice and everything. But in your heart, you know the right person for you, but you still need to know and test that. Well, it's not really test, it's to understand the core values that they have and you have, and that you are going in the same directions, have the same views, right? And so that's why there's a courting stage, right? So the courting stage is getting to know each other. And, sometimes people fake it until they're married because they want to be married. And obviously, if you're not feeling comfortable and all that, then obviously you're not with the right person. You can't be totally honest with what you feel, and you can be totally yourself with that person, then that's not the right person for you either. So that's why it's a massive commitment for me, and I've decided on that. And so marriage for me is forever. And is it necessary? That's the question, isn't it? Well, I don't think it's necessary because, that's just another cost. It's just a piece of paper. But it creates in your mind and the other person's mind the actual commitment that you guys signed up for, And that's a proof thing that, hey, look, we signed this. We both freely signed this. But, it's just like a document that reminds you every time that you signed it. But other than that, it's what's in your heart, and your heart is supposed to portray that anyway.
There you go. Well, thank you for sharing. And I want to sort of mention here, there are a couple of, I love your point about open, honest communication, understanding who you are, your values. I think that's really the first step. And marriage is certainly in our experience, in my experience, a great way to find out some of those things about yourself, right? And one thing that we talked about, how the divorce rates have skyrocketed since the 70s. And that's sort of a statistic out there, which is like 50% of marriages end up in divorce. Don't know if that's still accurate. I think on our website, we actually have a more accurate number. Let me just pull that up. What it does speak to is, okay, here we go. So it's approximately 45% of marriages end up in divorce. So that's from 2018 statistics, right? So it's not 50, that number has dropped a little bit. But what it does, when we look at the reasons for that, there's infidelity, so people cheating on each other. There's communication issues. There's money issues, right? They're kind of the top three things. And we did talk about how to have money conversations in episode 2. We talked about how to manage and talk about money as a couple. We've published guides on communication as well as on financials and how to work through those things with your partner, your spouse, or your would-be partner if you're in that stage of your life. And we also shared in episode 18 5 lessons from our first year of marriage and business together. And so we've been through a lot. And the one thing that I'm so grateful for is both of us having the commitment to keep going and to hold each other's hands through the fire, so to speak. So when there are these things that come up where it challenges us. Now, one of the episodes that we are releasing very soon is unconscious expectations of marriage and how that impacts the way you show up in your marriage and the challenges that brings with it. Because that's something that, a lot of the comments that some of these people have made in our community, and thank you everyone for sharing your thoughts, because that's really amazing, is that, sometimes we just go into the idea of marriage with these beliefs that come from our families, from our religions, or whatever it may be, our cultures. And so we really need to unpack and uncover, where did that come from, and do I still believe in that? Because if you don't, then you need to communicate that with your partner and make sure that you have the right person to work through that with. So whether you believe marriage is necessary or not, and whether you believe marriage is forever or not, that's okay. What I wanted to talk about or share were 3 tips that I actually shared with my friend Tam and his wife Sarah at their wedding, because I was their best man. So here are 3 tips that I can share from my own marriage journey. 1, love is a verb. It's something you work on together each and every day. 2, happily ever after is not a fairy tale. It's a choice. And you're going to make that choice every single day as well. And 3, you don't need to Google. This one's for you husbands. You don't need to Google because your wife has all the answers and they're always right. All right. So any other thoughts, Cindy, before we sign off for today?
No, I think you covered it all, my darling.
Were you surprised with my answer?
No, I wasn't actually. We know each other so well, so I kind of already knew that from the start. You're such a rebel like me.
Well, there you have it. I mean, we certainly are not living the traditional life, right? I mean, we've been nomads and we're starting our own businesses and all these kind of things. And we're like talking about our relationship on air. So I want to thank you, my amazing partner, gorgeous wife, for being on this journey with me, and to all our community for responding to our survey. And for you guys who are listening, we want you to give us your thoughts. So why don't you come over to our Facebook page or connect with us on LinkedIn or on Instagram, and then let us know what you think about this particular topic.
Yeah. This week's community announcement is from Sek Wood, and he was asked to host a session on establishing authentic relationships at the Professional Development Forum at Haymarket HQ in Chinatown on the 18th of March. So that's in Sydney, Australia, if anybody wants to know which Chinatown it is. And yeah, if you are free that day, feel free to drop by and give him a shout out.
I'm very happy for you, ST, that you'll be doing this event. I know that you've been working on communication skills and helping people develop those, and we love what you're all about. Congratulations on your recent wedding as well, my friend. And yes, if you are listening and are in Sydney, definitely head over to Professional Development Forum Facebook page to find out more information and to book your ticket. You can also join our Founders Connect community on Facebook. And if you head over to foundersconnect.co, there is a big button on the top of the site where you can click in to join our free group. In our next episode, we're talking about how to structure your business for dramatic yet sustainable scale with Brianne Dick and Jill Giovinazzo.
Thanks for tuning in, and remember to live passionately,
Purposefully,
and confidently. Till next time.